Revitalization, which means community involvement in what we can all do to make things better. Tim is going to come up and talk a little bit more, or talk about, not a little more, because I'm saying very little. Tim is going to talk about our organization, how you can be a part of it, and introduce a special guest that's here with us this evening.
Hi there. I'm Tim Wright with Reform Shreveport, so thank you all so much for coming here today. If you don't know very much about us, we're an advocacy organization. We've got these little flyers. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about who we are, we have a great website that has a lot of extra information. Would really emphasize, so we launched a membership program about 3 or 4 months ago, and that is really important to helping us grow our capacity and be a sustainable organization. So we've been around for about 8 years, and we've done a lot of speaking events, we've done community projects, and now we're doing these meetups to hopefully inspire you all. There's a lot of active members of the community here, and we want to help highlight those, and we just want to continue to see positive motion in Shreveport, and we want to be a part of it. And so I just really am glad y'all came today. I do want to introduce someone that's here today, Anne Marie, from the consultant who's helping NLCOG with a Safe Streets program. And so this is an important opportunity to let your voice be heard. So I'm going to let her speak for a few minutes about that.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Anne Marie Posniak, and I work for Half Associates right here in downtown Shreveport. We're an all-inclusive civil engineering firm, and I am here today on the behalf of NLCOG to collect information for their Safe Streets initiative. So I have these flyers. They're spread out around the room. I have some here with a QR code, and on this QR code, it'll take you to the website where you can learn more information. There's also a survey, and the survey will ask a few questions. It'll take less than 10 minutes. It'll ask a few questions about the behaviors of drivers here in Shreveport and in all of, and all of Caddo Parish, as well as the surrounding parishes, Bossier and DeSoto and Webster, I believe. And it'll also have an interactive map where you can put a pin on any intersection that you feel is dangerous in any way, and you can leave a comment. And so right now we're in like the collecting information stage of this, but NLCOG was awarded a grant to help fix these kinds of problems. So we're in the collecting information stage, and soon we'll be going into the stage where parishes and cities can apply for some of that grant money to fix these problems with the information that we're collecting now. So, and I will be here after this meeting as well if you have any other questions. Or if you just want to grab a flyer, and I would really appreciate if you took a couple minutes to just fill out the survey and help get as much information as we can get to make Shreveport and Caddo Parish a better place to drive. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So get involved with that. Safe streets are a really important thing to us as well. All right, I think that's about all I have to say. I am going to hand it off to Chris, and we will get this program started. So thank you all for coming.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tim. I want to thank everybody for being here today. I'm going to find my mouse. There it is. What we're about to engage in together is really important process. Everybody is. I'm going to stop talking and actually. There we go. Boom. No, I can't do it. Thank you, Lavette, for keeping me honest. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so thank you all for being here tonight. We're about to engage in a really amazing process. We're going to demystify the process of revitalizing our community. One of the things that we sometimes think about when we think about revitalization is we think about things being really big. And today we're going to take that all the way down to the individual block and lot and house level, business level, and learn what it means to revitalize in an incremental fashion. All right. So we'll start with a little bit about Reform Shreveport. Our mission is to create a stronger and more resilient Shreveport by growing a culture of engagement and trust between residents, businesses, and government. One of the things that when we talk about a divided Shreveport, one thing we don't often talk about is how we don't communicate very well between these different entities. And it's so crucial to the process of revitalization that we all be working in tandem toward a shared objective. If we're all in a boat rowing a different direction or with different strengths, we're not going to go in a straight line. And so those shared communication lines are really important. And as the evening goes on, that will become more and more apparent. So today, we're going to cover a few different things. We're going to talk about the very definition of revitalization from the Reform Shreveport perspective. We're also going to talk about the impacts that we think revitalization provides to a community beyond what most people may think that it is. We're going to talk about a few different types of revitalization, and then we're going to have some very special guests from around the community who are not a part of the Reform Shreveport organization to share their personal experiences in revitalization efforts. And I'll introduce them to you all later. And then we're going to have a short Q&A. So before we talk about what revitalization is, let's talk about what it isn't. As I alluded to at the very beginning of the presentation, revitalization doesn't have to be big projects, but oftentimes massive projects that may adopt the moniker of revitalization can often be what are actually catastrophic changes, in that they promise to bring a large development or what we call sudden intensification to an area. And what that actually can do is actually ruin the character, the nature, and disrupt the economics of an area so suddenly that it does not allow natural and organic growth, which is so vital to not only making revitalization happen, but to making it last, right? Super key. So from the Reform Shreveport perspective, revitalization is an incremental process. We're talking about making small changes and moving up to medium changes that ultimately result in a large change by their collective action, not by one large interaction coming down from the sky or from out of town, or even a local project that brings that sort of sudden intensification, that sudden revitalization. It has to be organic in order for it to have staying power. And the ultimate goal is to increase that quality of life and to build an economy that will last for a long time. So incremental is key. Without incrementalism, you have that potential for sudden death. We think about the monolithic businesses, wonderful when they bring jobs, but when they leave for whatever reason, the economy or something happens, there's a catastrophic loss. But when we think about incremental and multiple small and medium-sized projects, we're building a foundation in the community that's going to last a long time. So we're going to start our process tonight by engaging in a thought exercise that will put us in the mindset to be receptive to the idea of incremental revitalization. And we're going to, I know this is cheesy, we're going to close our eyes and we're going to think about the community that we want. Not just the sights, but the sounds and the smells. What does it feel like when you step out of your door? What does it feel like when you are walking to that business or eating at that local restaurant? It's probably not a giant parking lot smelling like asphalt. It's probably birdsong and trees and wide walking paths and things like that, not to put ideas in your mind. But when we think about beautiful places, the places that we go and visit on vacation or the places that we see in the movies, it's picturesque, it's earthy, it's small, it's local. And so as we're kind of going through this exercise, just keep that thought in mind, whatever that it means to you, right? So for me, this is kind of like what my mood board looks like. It's a place where public spaces are clean, it's easy to move around, there are places for people to simply sit and enjoy life or to engage in life with each other, and a place where businesses can enjoy organic and sustainable commerce, right? So that's cool, but we're here to learn about the how, right? So it's really important that we think about this as, again, a process. It's incremental, sure, but there are steps. We think of it as organic, not in the hippy-dippy way. No offense to the hippies in the room, because I'm sure there are some. but let's start with the process, right? And this is something that we've adapted from our friends over at Strong Towns when they think about making small and incremental change in the community, but we're going to adapt it to the revitalization process tonight. One is to start that process that we started just a moment ago with that thought exercise, to humbly observe the improvements that can be made. And humbly actually means something here. We have to think about not just what we want, because we all have our preferences, we all have our proclivities, but the idea is to think, how can I make life better, not just for me, but for my neighbors, for the business, for the community, for the students and the children. All of it has to come into context as we look at what we're going to do. We can't just think about the self. Step 2 is to ask that question, what is the next smallest thing that we can do? And this is really important because if we're envisioning something that we want to change, a problem that we want to fix, we have to figure out how we're going to get there. And of course, if you're, no offense to Tim, who's an engineer, or anybody who has the ability to kind of go and spend millions of dollars on a project, but the goal is to get something done, not for it to be such a big idea that we can't possibly ever pay for it, that it never gets done, because we think about those things all the time. Why doesn't Shreveport have a, insert here, right? So the goal is find the next smallest thing we can do. All right, we'll get to some examples in a minute. But the goal is figure out the next smallest thing, because you can always come back and do the next thing and the next thing. And that's where we snowball into large change, right? Step 3 is to identify the resources that you have at your disposal and begin to take action. Again, to do it right now. So if you have just some friends and you have some trash grabbers and a 5-gallon bucket from Lowe's, you can go make a difference. And, when we've done a lot of news interviews over the last 48 hours. One of the people that asked me a question, they said, well, Chris, say I'm a person that says, well, why should I clean up the street? Isn't that the city's job? And, maybe in a version of the world that doesn't exist, the answer might be yes. But at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to take the burden of making things better. And if that means that we have to get out and go do it ourselves, and that's what it's going to take to get it done, then we got to roll up our sleeves, okay? So step 4 is to repeat. This is the back of the shampoo bottle, because the goal here is not to just do it once, but to make something sustainable. And part of that repeat doesn't just mean you going out and doing it, because we've done that, but look at where we are right now. The goal is to get as many people engaged in this process as possible, because many hands make for light work, and that's what it's going to take. Right? So, and at the end of the day, I feel good, pretty damn good, when something is done, when something is accomplished. So this process of doing something small, doing it as quickly as possible, rinse and repeat, is the definition of incrementalism. And it is how, everything, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's how all of these projects that we're going to hear from tonight, the leaders that have taken on those projects and the ones that we're going to show examples of that Reform has helped with, got done. No, there was no big, here's $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million, go do it. It's, let's start today with a trash cleanup. Let's start today by planting some trees. Let's start today by doing these things that are going to make a difference. So I'm going to share one project that Reform Shreveport has done right here in downtown, just around the corner. And it was a project we did in 2017 in coordination with the Downtown Development Authority, right at the corner of where their new building was going in at Crockett Street. This is Cotton Street, Cotton and Marshall. This is the railroad track here, and people disagree, I think, about what that was. Maybe it was a watering station, some sort of train infrastructure. But this was just a dirt hill, and it had vines in it, and it was dirty and messy. And the DDA called and said, hey, we see some of the stuff you've been doing with Highland Park, which, if you're familiar with our work, you may know about that. But they said, well, what can we do that's small? And so there was some mulch that was brought in. John Paul Young brought in some his expertise on planting things. There was some spray paint. That's Levette's hand, I think. Hey. Well, I got to clear it with your publicist next time. We just took some palettes and painted them in bright colors, set them up into the corner, and it went from this to this. And of course, that was in 2017. After some time, those crates deteriorated a little bit. They lost their color. But the important part wasn't just that color that was added, it was what was planted in the ground, because now we have this. This is what it was before. This is what it is now. And while this may seem really small, this is one of the gateways and one of the exits in and out of downtown. And every corner in our community needs this kind of attention. And all it took was a dozen people and some trees and some mulch, and we got it done, right? I'll share now a project that me and my partner Felicia took on during COVID, which was, and this is totally, Batman, not Bruce Wayne project. Yes. Yes, and maybe you want to close your ears and cover your eyes, but that's okay. We're going to talk about it anyway. So if you don't know what Providence House is a place where people go on some of their worst days of their lives. They're escaping challenging home situations and starting a new journey in their life. Providence House is on one side of the street, and the parking lot that they use is on the other side of the street. Well, at one point in time, there was a crosswalk there, and after many years of good use and traffic, it went away. So this is Cotton Street, and you can sort of make out the crosswalk there. And, Felicia and I got a wild hair and went on to Amazon, bought some supplies, put some blue tape out, and we just started painting. Now, we actually looked up the proper paint from the LADOTD, because we're fun, nerdy people like that, and found the proper formulation, and we just painted it. And it was done. It took us 1 hour. And now people who are experiencing the darkest day of their life have a little bit less difficult time crossing the street. Small things. And this is last year. It's still there. Probably needs a touch-up now, but there it is. And this is our Amazon shopping cart. And I'll zoom in for the people in the back. It was $101.42, and an hour of our time, making people's lives better, right? So it doesn't have to be a big project. You don't have to have all the money in the world. You can make a difference, whether it's planting a tree or making someone's life a little better by observing the world around you and trying to think of a way you can make people's lives better. And if that means that I had to have a few less Key Mexico visits to afford this, then that's what we did, right? Okay, so I know this is not about Reform Shreveport. It's not about me or Felicia. It's about sharing more stories like these with you, because we've been working in the organization for 8 years now. Is that right? What it is? 2016, end of the year, and we're just getting our feet underneath us. We've done more projects, and if you want to find out about all the wonderful things that Reform and all the volunteers and the supporters have been able to do over those 8 years, we invite you to go to reformshreveport.com. We have a projects tab that has all the things that we've done. They're varied. We're still learning, which is something that I would encourage all of us to think about, is we're always learning what that next thing is. But what I want to do now is, oh yeah, I've already said that. That's great. Oh, I forgot about this part of the presentation. This is my self-indulgent part of the presentation. So when we think about those small changes that were made, ultimately we can say this is what people need. We need a crosswalk here. We need a beautiful sidewalk. And as we go through the process of showing those things are needed, and when the opportunity arises with public funds or other funds, with grants and government grants and things like that, we can move into things that are better, right? This is just my fever dream wish list of things, right? Crosswalks is a theme. I don't know if you noticed, right? But we can't afford this today. We're not there yet. We will get there. I'm confident we will. If we build a place that is incremental, that works toward helping local business, that grows the economy, that helps us raise the tax revenue without raising taxes, then we can get there. Okay. Oh, and one more. Here's a cool little street. They turned some parking into, no offense to half on the driving thing, but I like walking. So with that, this is just my little thoughts there. What I would like to do is to invite up our very first speaker to talk about her experience in activating her community and making sure that the world and the city is a better place for people who are living here and visiting here. Please welcome to the stage Callie Combs. Oh, she's coming. You need a couple minutes? Okay, got it. Okay, cool. Yes, this is perfect. This is why we built extra slides into the presentation. Lavette just gave me the best dream in the world, being able to do this. Okay, so we're going to look at a case study where incremental change moved into permanent, real development change. This is Broad Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee. It is a, pardon the language, it was 8-9 years ago a shithole, okay? This is what it looked like. You may recognize this vibe from other places in Shreveport. Lots of roadways, parallel parking, boarded up buildings. And then the community went out and they started just doing stuff. They painted a bike lane, they moved the parking away from the curb, they put in 45-degree parking. They didn't ask any permission for this. They just did it. And it went from this to this, just with some cans of paint. Now, at some point, the city did catch on, right? And of course, the first fear in my heart is we're going to take all this out, never do it again, or you'll get in trouble. But they didn't do that. What they did instead is they said, okay, we'll give you a little grant. And with that grant, they bought some potted plants. They put up some little safety reflectors. And then a few years later, the city said, hey, that's actually a pretty good idea. And they started putting in permanent versions. So we're talking 2011, took them a while. 8 years later, this is a picture that I was able to take because we did some stuff up there in Memphis for Prize Foundation. And then here's the finished version of that. And as you can see, the map now has store, 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 restaurant, store. And for no other reason than it was a place that invited people and that prioritized people. And now it's a thriving, beautiful place where people get together and do outdoor yoga and concerts. This is across the street from that little shopping strip. It used to be an old warehouse. They started by painting the water tower. Not a bad idea. We should do that, right? That was a joke. We're doing that. That's great. And now that property has been purchased, that warehouse demolished, and now this is what's being built there. It's multi-use, multi-income, mixed income development. Now, this would typically be what we call a sudden intensification, but it was preceded by almost 15 years of work and development to focus on people and local business before this ever went in, before the numbers ever made sense. And so instead of asking, why don't we have when is Shreveport going to get let's do the work and let's make it happen by the numbers. Let's make it financially viable for these companies to do that. It's perfect timing because that was the end of my little extra piece. I would now love to invite up our first guest speaker, Callie Combs, who is a business owner. She runs Social Pal Cal, which is a marketing and social media agency. She works with the Shreveport Bossier African American Chamber of Commerce, and we're so excited to have her here today. Thank you so much, Callie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. And Lavette is filling in as a part-time babysitter. I brave bringing both of my kids here today, and if you are a mom, working mom, you understand my plight right now. But I am all the way excited when they first reached out to me just to chat a little bit about a little bit of what we did and what the work we've been doing in the community. I was taken aback, honestly, because I just just do it because I love Shreveport through and through. I was born here, I was raised here, graduated from Captain Shreve, went to Shreve Island, went to Erie Drive Middle School. I actually graduated from LSUS, so I'm just a hometown girl, and I really love pouring into my community. I always have. Just a little bit about me, as he said. I run a social media agency. I actually started out my career in marketing as a real estate agent. Actually, I was a realtor about 14 years ago. Had my real estate license for about 3 years. I love showing homes. I loved being able to connect people with their dream home. But along the way, I found that I really loved marketing. And so that catapulted into me starting my own agency, and I've just been blessed with opportunities to work with venture capital companies outside of Shreveport as well as inside of Shreveport, a lot of government agencies, statewide campaigns, and so on and so forth, and also local entrepreneurs that are just looking for a leg up in social media and marketing. So I will just share a little bit about the Monkhouse Project and how it came to be, and actually started out with a social media post. So I just kind of put it out there, and I heard about all the things going on in the community. That is an area, part of town where I live, and it just was an eyesore over and over for me personally. As again, I look at everything from a marketing lens first. And so when I think of building a community, I think of how do we sell the community, not just from outsiders, but internally, right? We have to sell it also, not just the guests and visitors that are coming in, but how do we also get the community to buy into that? And that was what I posed on social media once I got wind of everything going on with the whole, 50 Cent merger and the G-Unit films and all of that. This is back early, January. I said, hey, that corridor needs some love. It's always needed some love. But if we have all of these guests, right, and we're looking at selling ourselves, selling Shreveport a little bit and seeing how visitors think about Shreveport, what are they going to see? And I'm going to not point her out, I'm going to point her out, but actually one of my partners is back there, Cherry. She showed up. But four of us just got together after that post, and let me backtrack. I put the post out there. I'm going to be real with y'all for a second. I put the post out there, and I honestly was hoping someone else would pick it up and run with it. Because at the time, as y'all see, I have a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I run an agency, and I do this and that, and I work with the chambers, and I do this. I was like, okay, how am I going to fit this in my schedule? So let me just give somebody else the idea, and maybe they'll get it. I put it out there and waited. And I waited. I didn't see anything going on, so I said, well, I'm a faith-driven person, well, not me. So a couple of ladies got together, we huddled on Facebook Messenger and said, hey guys, what are we gonna do about this? And that really involved seeing other people that thought like me, that really had the love for the community and saw the vision. They saw us wanting to look better, like I said, not just from outsiders, but insiders too, inside our community. So we got together and planned, strategized, how are we gonna set up committees? All four of us were in charge of various committees. We had a committee that, we thought about what we needed. We needed someone to go talk to the business owners and see, where do they see where it needs love? Let's hear from them. We want to hear what they think about the community that they're in. They're on that corridor, and so what do they think? So we really wanted to know what they envision for if they had no money, if money wasn't an object, what would they love to see that corridor look like right in front of Monkhouse? And so that was our vision. So we had a person to look over for businesses to get that input. And then we also had a person that was in charge of just gaining what we needed for supplies. And we were lucky enough to get the Shreveport Green to donate a lot of supplies for us, that was a blessing. We talked to them and they saw the vision and they were like, oh yes, we got it. Whatever y'all need. What do you need? Paint? You need flowers? What do you need? We got it. And so we had a committee to do that, and then we had another that just was in charge of coordinating everyone, getting all the volunteers together. And in April was our first cleanup. So we were able to go out there, did a cleanup. It was probably about 20, 25 of us together. I counted, we picked up about 15 full bags of trash, which was amazing. I was really excited about that because a lot of what we picked up were just the little bitty pieces. And you don't realize how much those little bitty pieces add up. So we picked that up, and so next we said, okay, well, we did it once, how about we do it again? And we were lucky enough to, about 2 weeks ago, we did it again, right before Human Harmony started. And so again, same vision. And so as we look ahead, one of the pieces and components to selling ourselves internally and externally is also growing into the community. So as we build this and as we grow, we plan to reach back out in the community and neighborhoods, and we have someone that reached out to us that donated paint. So we want to look ahead and look at painting those houses that are along that corridor, painting anything that needs painting, because we got so much buy-in and positive feedback from what we did. It was just really, really warmed all of our hearts. So that's what it was. Of course, we were in the news a couple of times, which was really cool. We just want to get the word out and just show people that we can love on our community and love on Shreveport. It just needs some love. We have great people here. We have so many dynamic creatives here. And as you see, I have 2 little boys. I want them to stay here. I want them to go to school here. I want them to grow up here, and I want them to see the Shreveport that I envisioned when I was young, and looking at, where do I move away or do I stay here? And I chose to stay here for a reason, and I just am thankful and look forward to continuing to do the work. I don't do it for recognition. I do it because I love my city. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much for sharing with that, Callie. And by the way, we're going to do a Q&A with all 3 of our guest speakers at the end, just in case you have any questions about their process or insights. So hold on to those questions. I would now like to invite our second guest speaker up tonight, local business owner. You may have heard about their king cakes, Sarah Louder from Louder Baking Company.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. What I wanted to do is to share a little bit about the community project we took on back in 2020. So my husband, Preston, and I, we own Louder Baking Company, which is a bakery in Shreveport. We started making king cakes and then grew our menu from there to do breakfast pastries, breads, desserts, and we opened in 2019. Our bakery is located on Fern Avenue, right where the South Highlands and Broadmoor and Highland neighborhoods all meet. And we happen to live about 3 or 4 blocks away from there, so it really is close to home. And nearby our house was a bridge on Ockley and kind of goes over Bayou Pierre. And the way that we came about kind of wanting to tackle this project is because this is the bridge we would drive over every day to go to the bakery. We have 3 young kids. We would walk the neighborhood. We'd walk the bridge. And every time we walked by, we just kind of looked at it and thought, gosh, this is such a pretty bridge, but it just needs some TLC. It just needs a little bit of kind of prettying up just to give it kind of its former glory, I felt like. And so we decided that this is something we wanted to tackle. We didn't really know where to start. So funny enough, one of the first emails I sent was to our councilwoman, Livette Fuller, and then also John Nicholson. And we just reached out and we said, hey, we want to make this bridge better. How does it work? Do we just show up with a bucket of paintbrushes? Where do we start? And so Livette kind of pointed us into the direction of SPAR. So what we did is we reached out to SPAR on an email and copied Livette and John Nicholson on it and said, hey, we're Sarah and Preston Louder, we're business owners, we really want to do something about this bridge. Where do we start? And so they said, hey, cool, that's a great idea. Why don't we sit down and meet? So we planned a meeting with them, and kind of beforehand, Preston and I kind of put together a list of things that we felt like the bridge needed. The broken tiles needed to be fixed. We felt like it needed to be painted. A lot of the footlights were out. And so we met with SPAR and said, these are the things that we want to improve with the bridge. Where do we need to start? And so they said, okay, well, there's a little process. We need to make sure if we're painting it, we need to scrape the old paint, get the rust off. We need to prime it twice and then paint it. And we said, that's fine. We are, willing to buy the paint. And they said, well, we're happy to supply any of the supplies needed. If y'all can just help with kind of getting some manpower behind it, we'll tackle it from there. So we just started. So we utilized social media as well. So we put it out there on our Facebook page and our personal pages and the neighborhood pages, and just kind of a call to action. And we said, hey, we've decided to do a community project. We are going to start repainting the Ockley Bridge. We created a sign-up genius on just signupgenius.com, which was just an easy way to kind of put time slots. We put 2-hour time slots and just said, hey, anybody that wants to come, feel free to sign up or just show up. And I think our first time we went, it was just me, Preston, a family member, and maybe a friend. But as we were doing it, that first time we were scraping, we were trying to get the rust off, we took pictures to try to document. And then we posted again a couple days saying, hey, update, things are going well. This is what we did our first meeting. And so people, I feel like, understood what we were starting to try to do. And so the second time that we all met up to do the bridge, we had more and then more. And it just kind of grew into this really just neat meeting with all of our neighbors and just people who wanted the same things and just wanted this bridge to kind of improve. And so we went through and we scraped, we primed it twice, we painted. As we were doing that, our friends at Marilyn's Place, Boz, he jumped in and he said, hey, I'm willing to donate power washing. So we had somebody come out and power wash all the bridge. We were working with the city kind of along this whole process, and they said, hey, what we'll do is we'll put in new foot lighting and repair the tiles. And so it just kind of grew and grew until we finally had a finished project. This was during COVID, so we were all masked up. And it was just such a neat way to be able to see kind of our finished product of what we really wanted to tackle. And, we have 3 young kids. We wanted our kids to be excited to walk the bridge with us. And it, seems like something just so small as painting a bridge, but it really just turned into so much more. So kind of from there, we have some great neighbors and community members that just said, hey, this would be really neat if we decorated it for Christmas. So we kind of got together, we raised some money, and we got Christmas lights and decorated it. Nightlighters donated some Christmas lights for the bridge, and then from there, Preston and I decided, well, to celebrate Mardi Gras season, we'll decorate it for King Cake season at the beginning of Mardi Gras, and then that also kind of led into decorating it during summer for 4th of July. So it's really turned into just a neat project for us. Every Christmas now, we have a bridge lighting ceremony that we bring Santa and kids come out. We have hot chocolate and some neighborhood businesses come out, and it's really neat. It's become a thing. So we're really excited of just what it's turned into. We hope to be able to do more community projects in the future, but I think what we saw success in was we felt like we started small. We came in with a plan. And then just making it real clear of how people could help along with us. And that sign-up genius was really good. So that is about it for us. So thank y'all so much.
I'm not a super emotional person, but I feel like as I get older, the tears come a little easier. But I think when we think about these projects, whether it's cleaning up the entryway to our community or making somebody's commute across the bridge, whether they're driving or walking, to a little bit better, a little bit brighter, and we get to celebrate those things as community, they're the things that I think we all dream about when we're thinking about the Shreveport that we want, right? And that happens when people get into action. So I would like to now invite up our third a guest speaker, somebody who has been a volunteer on Reform Shreveport projects and a partner on others since the very beginning, was with us in Highland Park, rolling out logs and raking out leaves and stuff, which again, you can read about that on reformshreveport.com. I might say reformshreveport.com about 3 more times before the end of the day. But our next guest speaker and a really great friend of mine, Madison Poche with the Highland Center.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Hi. Thanks, everyone. I'm really glad to be here. I know I'm the third speaker, so if you want to get up and get a snack or something, I won't be offended. Well, the project that I am talking about today is work that we did with the Highland Neighborhood Association in Columbia Park. So I was the president of that group a few years ago. I've now passed that baton to April. Who's there if you have any other questions or ideas? So I'm a little, I was thinking about this, I'm a little embarrassed because the project that we ended up doing, painting the pavilion, was not the original plan. And I think I didn't really care that much about Columbia Park. I think I had other people on the neighborhood association group saying they just did all that work in Highland Park. Why don't we do something in Columbia Park? Maybe, we'll see. Well, we'll add it to the agenda. But finally, I had some neighbors plan a time to go walk through the park. And as I walked through with them, I realized actually, 2 out of the 3 slides were broken. One had a plywood piece of wood nailed to the top so the kids wouldn't slide down the broken slide. And there were branches that looked like they were gonna fall on someone. There was graffiti over some of the pavilions. The bathrooms had been sealed shut. All of a sudden, the park that I remembered actually was looking a little dingy, and it's kind of one of our neighborhood hubs. So we just started making a list of all the things that we would like to see. And some of them were kind of big projects, wouldn't it be great if the water, had running water in a creek? And some of them were small things, there's trash on the ground. Wouldn't it be nice if there were more trash cans? And then we just kind of started building onto that. I know I walked through with Chris, who had a few good ideas, and then just reached out to SPAR. And I would say, my tip is always just to be, nice, right? We're kind of moving from, I think the paradigm of being a customer of the city to being a co-creator, and to be willing to pitch in, to have some suggestions, and so we got Katie from their leadership team came and walked through with us, and I think we were just wanting to get information, right? What is the current plan with this park? What are you willing to do? How does this work? Do you see that branch that we see that looks like it's going to fall on someone? And so through that conversation, I think we built a relationship and built some engagement, right? So some of the questions got answered. Yes, next time we buy trash cans and we buy slides, we'll add in the Columbia Park requests. And no, the bathrooms are not going to be fixed. They're a huge problem. It's really expensive. Don't put that on your, top 10, list of things that you want. If you wanted to paint something, we could probably buy some paint. And so that was really helpful, just to give us a scope of what was possible and what's not possible, and where we could be helpful as neighbors. Let me see what else I wrote down. And, so from that we were able to follow up with them and made of our list, I'm a spreadsheet person, so I had a column for what the project was, how much it would cost, who was in charge of doing it, and it was easy to sort and be okay, what we would like the city to be able to do is add more trash cans, fix the broken limbs, and fix those slides for kids. And I really love this as an example that I use sometimes. I think we had a board member who had been reaching out to SPAR to add trash cans for 3 years. And what we ended up doing was we created our own map of where the trash cans are and where we would like them to be and how many we would like. And in one day, we emailed it to the guy at SPAR, and he emailed it to his colleague and said, please buy these trash cans, right? So for someone who has a million things on his plate, making that really easy and smooth and clear helped facilitate, kind of our end goal. And then really the idea of painting the pavilion really came up as just solving a problem. There's a lot of graffiti, and I learned from my friends at Shrek and Shreveport Common, like if you put a mural on something, people are less likely to graffiti over it again. And so Chris was like, well, instead of just painting it white or one color, what if we did something multicolor? And I think the most helpful thing was created a Photoshop version of what it could look like. And so with that, visible project, it was really easy. Oh yeah, they're cool. To send that now to my new friends at SPAR who had been fixing the trash cans, had been fixing the slides, had added in lights, to say, could we do this? And they were wonderful and said, yeah, if you can choose the paint colors, we'll buy it. If you can get the people out there, that's sure, it probably can't look worse than it does now. And so I had someone who is a professional graphic designer choose colors, and sure enough, they bought the paint, and then we were committed to holding a paint day. And so we set a date before the Highland Jazz and Blues Festival, and I'll just pause and say, I think, we didn't start out with this plan, but the momentum of getting a group together and seeing small successes kind of propelled this much bigger project forward, and having a lot of input from a lot of different people who saw things in a different way than I did. And there were, a few hurdles. They were like, do you guys have liability insurance? So I was like, oh yeah, we're a neighborhood, we do have liability insurance. And then I think 2 weeks before, someone who was advising me asked when we were gonna pressure wash before painting. And I was like, I don't have a pressure washing plan. So all of a sudden I was calling up neighbors, can we use your water for pressure washing? Do you know a pressure washer? And finally, someone connected me with someone who offered us a wonderful discount on pressure washing. And I think it was the Thursday night before people were gonna show up on Saturday morning when the pressure washing got done. And then we just came out. What I love about this project is I think it's very approachable and doable, people can kind of handle, right, and participate in, but also it's really visible. I once heard a mayor say, you can pass all the policies that you want, but if you don't fix the potholes, no one really cares. I think having something that's really visible got a really great reaction just because it shows, more so than, the trash cans, right, that there is a group of people that care about our community, that want to show up and work together. And now, when people I just saw someone take a wedding photo in Columbia Park, and I was like, oh, this place has changed. And there's been a lot of, SPAR continued to invest in the space. I think once they kind of had a little bit of attention and a checklist to go through, and now that momentum has continued. April got a grant to plant 100 trees in the park this year. And so it's just been a wonderful way to kind of flex that muscle of seeing a small problem and figuring out different creative solutions with a group of people. And so my kind of quick takeaways are one, just to walk around our community more. Sometimes, I think I probably drove by Columbia Park 50 times, but it wasn't until I walked through that I started noticing the small things. Two is really I think that paradigm shift of, I'm sure everyone in the room already thinks this, of being a co-creator, that it's more fun to be a participant than to be a bystander. And then 3 is to find your buddies who will show up at 9 o'clock in the morning or will send you an idea that they thought about late at night for a project. So that's what I have today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that is the stories of our three speakers, and I think that one of the things that, or there are several things that you can find in common with each one of these. And spoiler alert, I knew these stories before we had them here tonight. But so just to kind of recap my thoughts, and hopefully you've taken away some of your own, is to just start. As Madison said, go walk around, and as we mentioned at the very beginning, humbly observe and think about the ways that things can be better, and to think about them in a small way. And to get started, to tackle one thing at a time. I think Madison like mentally looked forward in my slideshow, which is to just, think about them in small chunks. What's the next smallest thing that we can do? Okay, we can't do that right now today. What can we do? Something, anything. Get to the improvement as quickly as possible, whatever it is. Find like-minded, you really did look at my slides. Find like-minded individuals and stay committed and do it over and over and over again. It doesn't have to be every weekend. It doesn't have to be every month, but maybe once a year or, however often you feel moved to do so. And the other part is that you don't always have to be the person who is doing the project. You can just show up, right? You can be a part and you can find that group of people, and maybe you're the person that has the idea the next time, but the first time, you're just out there with a trash claw or out there with a paint roller or planting flowers because you just want to do something, right? And that's how Reform Shreveport has grown over the last several years. I would now, I hope you guys have thought of questions. I told you it was going to be a Q&A, so don't embarrass me. I'm going to bring up our three guests one more time and offer them the opportunity to answer any questions that you might have, or to fill in any details on the anecdotes if you have them. So if we could bring to the stage our guests again, and give them a hand. Okay, I'm not gonna hold the mic forever, so if you have a question, stand up and let us know who you are and what the question is. Wouldn't you mind? And if you would just repeat the question for the internet, because we are live streaming, and then you can hand it to whoever needs the. Okay, don't stand too close to the speaker.
Now you tell me. Any questions? Kathleen. So the question was about whether or not there was a Facebook group or a website for the Monkhouse Project, and the answer is that there is a Facebook group for the Monkhouse Drive Project, and you can request to be a member of it on Facebook. Chris. So the question is, have you identified any new sparks or any inspiration for moving forward with your project?
Yeah, we definitely have. Our actual date is, was it November 2nd or 3rd? Anyway, yeah, we've identified this is something we want to do quarterly. And every time we go out, we see just a different need that we want to address. So the first need, we did trash pickup and all of that. We also looked into power washing certain areas and certain buildings. So every time we go out, we want to make sure we address and add more. So make sure we benefit little by little.
We have definitely looked at some other areas, especially around Bayou Pierre, since that's where our bakery is located. We are hoping to tackle something maybe towards the end of this year or early next year, but we have a few projects in mind that we're starting to think about.
Yes. Let's see. So the Highland Neighborhood Association does different cleanups. Actually, am I allowed to say? We have been partnering with a few different folks in the area to start thinking with many other people about how we could improve Kings Highway to make it more walkable. So hopefully there will be more information coming soon from Reform Shreveport. And then personally, I loved doing neighborhood projects. So I asked, what if I could do this all of the time? And now I run a nonprofit in the neighborhood. So don't take it too far, guys. Yeah.
When you pray, be specific. You might end up running a whole nonprofit in your neighborhood. Remember to stay up here for the feedback. Any other questions? Yes.
At what point when you begin a project do you know to contact the government authority, and how do you figure out which authority you're supposed to contact?
That's a good question. At what point in your activity do you contact the government authorities, and how do you know who to contact?
So we felt like when we did our project, once we kind of had a plan put in place of what exactly we wanted to do, writing it out, and what we would do kind of throughout the project is as we got different kind of increments done, once we scraped the bridge, once we primed the first coat, once we primed the second coat, we would write and follow up with SPAR. We would copy our council members on it just to give them an update and with some pictures, just so they felt very much looped in. And so that way, if there was a point that we needed to ask for more paint or more supplies, they knew kind of where we were. They knew we were sticking with it. And so our initial reach out was once we had a plan, and then just staying in contact.
Yeah, we were very similar. Once we formulated a plan, we reached out to the councilman in that district just to let him know, what we were doing, what was going on, and he was super excited about it. He even said this was an initiative that he's personally been wanting to push for a long time. So he let me know, keep him posted. The feedback that we got from the business owners, one thing I plan to do is to compile that and actually send that to council so they can see that we've done a lot of the lead work already for them. We know that with the bond that recently passed, Monkhouse re-beautification is a part of that. And so I want to make sure personally that the specific needs that we've already identified are addressed as much as they can.
The only thing I'd add to that is I would just bother someone who has similar projects going on in their world. So like I alluded to this, but I reached out to Reform to say, I saw that you guys did Highland Park. Like, how'd you get all that money? And who was your point of contact? And what did you learn? And so that's all.
I remember specifically the pressure washing, because to figure out if there was a place to actually get water close by that they could plug into to fill up the tanks in order to do the power wash, because it was a big truck. And I think we all learned through that one. Sometimes you can call your council member. Sometimes they'll see it. Sometimes they'll get to you and be able to direct you in the right direction. But one thing I've noticed just from that hat, wearing that hat, was you have neighborhood associations that are really strong and already know the contacts better than you do. Like, they're going to be in the neighborhood. You're term limited. The neighborhood association is not. So they know the department heads probably better than you do in some moments. So when Madison was the president of Highland, she would loop me on stuff, but she already had contacts at SPAR, at the water department, at Property Standards, which meant that it's like, I'm sorry, I can't paint with you right now. I'm trying to tear down houses in Caddo Heights. But it makes a difference when you realize that. But the other thing you start to see is that strong communities don't need strong leaders. What's the quote? Where are they? The politician says, "Where are they going? I got to get in front to lead them there." No, you're just like they're pointing you in the direction that they're going, and they're letting you be out front. The problem is when they become a human shield. But when you're working together, you don't need a strong leader. You need strong communities. And some parts of our community have more capacity. And what we're hoping to do is help the other parts build stronger capacity too. Who else has questions? So what had happened was, do you mean for them or for Reform? So what had happened was we've all been in different points in our careers. We've got a lot of inflexible things, and one of us went off and had a really cute daughter, and then turned around and had twins. So I won't say any names, Tim. But what that means is for a long time, we were doing things as we could. We would have our annual meetings where we would bring in special guests, and then we would work on our projects. Like Highland Park became a thing where we could set periodic meetings. Now we're at this point where we are doing more consistent meetings like this. One might be like a meetup just to have a chit chat. Like we'll go to 7th Tab. They have a private room where we can talk about things we'd like to see and just have big ideas. And then the next thing will be more structured, like the meeting we're having right now. And ideally, we'll be doing these every other month, where we'll see the fun thing, then the structured thing happening throughout the year, month by month by month. And then we'll still be bringing in the special guests, and we'll still be doing the other projects. Chris is going to be putting out a lot more news about Kings Highway, and there'll be some really good news about that pretty soon. And hopefully you'll all get to see what happens when we're ready to get people on their feet and volunteer, and we'll be broadcasting when we're ready for volunteers for stuff like that as well. Thank you for asking that. So now there are a number of things that happen when we start talking about these issues. And we could have a whole lecture. There are a few things I'm going to say now. So the comment is about just picking up large bulk items. And sometimes there's things in there that could be reused for the kind of projects that we do. I think that was part of where you were going. But the other part is, if we would all just kind of help do that, it would be kind of great. But also, I want to get into the taxpayer revenue side of that very quickly. I'll try not to lecture too much. No promises. The city of Shreveport is losing population and annexing on more land. So you have fewer people to pay for more land and all the infrastructure and everything else that goes into it. If we want to see that change, the first thing is for us to vote and advocate for policy changes. When the people are there in those seats, they can't just think, oh no, we'll get more tax revenue if we just annex in this more thing. Because you get a sugar high, but it doesn't sustain us. You're just high for a minute, but the crash is hard. So what we do outside of this is a little bit of policy advocacy, and that's one of the things that we talk about is, hey, we can be more sustainable if we don't take on more land. What that means is you've got less money to pay employees to do the things, and it also ends up being kind of a morale drag when you see things that you don't have time or capacity to pick up right when you see them. Now, there are some things that we can do with technology, lecture. There are some things that we could tweak that could probably make it a little bit more effective and a little bit more efficient for people to get more time out of their day, get more productivity, but we're not there yet. And I don't think anybody's blind, and I don't think anybody wants it to be that way. It's just getting the right people in the right place and the money to make it all happen at once. But in the meantime, what can we do as community? Like, there are things that we can do about it here that are where we are now, and some of it is just the cleanups. Like, we do a big citywide cleanup with Shreveport Green every year, and community groups get paid by having, if they weigh it. All of the trash gets weighed, and it's all out at the fairgrounds. And if you bring in the largest amount, if you're in the big group or like the medium-sized group or the small group, if you weigh in the most for your size group, you get money for your organization. It's just, that's only once a year. Cameras are going up in some known dumping spots, I know, so that there will be criminal charges for people that get caught on camera. So there are things that have been going on even before this administration, with the council being cognizant, and they're just getting a little better and getting geared up for it. So I have hope, and I think we can all be optimistic about that. But I don't think that there's anyone that's looking at Shreveport and trying to gaslight you. What do you mean they're dumping? I don't know what you're talking about. That's a sculpture. Like, nobody's doing that. We all see it, and we're trying to make it better. But if you're finding scrap materials that can be used for stuff, some of the stuff that they did in Memphis and the parklets, like the little, like being able to turn, like to help someone put like a cute little temporary deck at their restaurant that they can use immediately, we're totally down to help with a person that wants to try to do something like that. But we just have to look at a thing, say that that's a place we want to start, get some friends together, and work on it. Chelsea.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with ownership. That's something our group really talked about every time. I mean, me personally, it's like I can't describe the feeling that I get after being out. It's hot, you're thirsty, but you're like, hey, I'm pouring into my community, and it's meaningful work, impactful work. And it's all because of the love and passion that we have. And you hit the nail on the head with ownership. One thing that we hope to do is, we just had 2 so far, but every time the crowd gets a little bigger and bigger, and people come with ideas, people come with, excitement and enthusiasm. And for me and us, that's what it's all about.
I think from our project, one of the big things that we saw is just with volunteers of just how excited they got about it. It seems like a small project to paint a bridge, but people got so excited about it. So that really showed us that so many people want to do something, they just don't really know where to start. And we had people calling us saying, I'm working full time, I can't get there to give my time, but can I donate coffee to the volunteers? So people are really, really wanting to do things, and I think if it's something that can be shown to them, an easy entry point to be able to make a difference, people are wanting to jump in. So I loved getting to see that, and just the pride in our neighborhood and the bridge, and now that it celebrates all things throughout the year. So that was neat to see.
I'm trying to think of what to add to that. Every time I go by Columbia Park, I'm still like, that green column, that's my column, and if anyone tags it, I'm coming back with green paint. I think just being able to say, like, oh, okay, that seemed really crazy and challenging, but now that I did that, like, cool, like, I could do that again, right? Like, we could do that again. It definitely builds the network of enthusiasm as well. So it's really fun to be a part of.
I was just going to add to what Madison was saying, if I may. The improvements at Columbia Park, those of us who live around the park, we have all seen a dramatic change in trash. There's way less trash around the park because there is care, and there's, like Chelsea said, there's more ownership in that park. So.
My mom used to say, no one's going to take better care of your toys than you do. Miss Bradford. Hold on, I don't want to have to repeat. We want the camera to pick it up.
As residents, we have to take ownership and responsibility. Coming from a federal government side of life, then a city government side and a state government, and I see we have our state representative, Mr. Jackson, here, so thank you, sir. But also, we have to take responsibility. The city can do so much. And just so you can know that we have SPAR, we have Public Works, we have all of these great departments, but we also have contract workers who have to help us keep up with what's going on in the city. So sometimes you may see a worker, and he or she may not be per se a city worker, they may be a contract worker. If you see something, it is also your responsibility to let us know so that we can correct it on the front end instead of the back end. I like the community aspect because I also know, people say, well, I pay your taxes. I pay them too. I pay my salary too because I have to work. Well, I'm really retired. But anyway, we have to come into our communities and do better. If we allow outsiders to come in our neighborhoods and throw trash, that's our problem that we let them do that, whether they're our friends or our relatives. I see it every day, and as soon as some of the workers, whether they are contractors or city workers, can clean up an area, within 5 minutes, somebody has dumped trash somewhere along some street. So we have to hold people accountable because this is our city. And if we love our neighborhood and we love our cities like we say we do, it's all on us. The buck stops with us as residents and taxpayers, and yes, the buck stops with the city because we have to enforce and do things that we need to do to help you, the community, and the citizens to do better and to live, play, and work in a safe, clean city. Thank you for being here tonight.
Since I have my officials, people who that work with or for government, I'm going to go ahead and do a pass the mic really quick. And if you have anything you'd like to add, State Rep, thank you for being here. And then we'll get back to questions. And I've got Kaylin and then you. Okay.
I'm Janie Landry with the Downtown Development Authority, and first of all, I want to thank Reform Shreveport. This is a great idea, these community meetings like this, and for the 3 speakers and your organizations, your volunteers for getting involved, seeing a need, and doing something about it. We're in the process right now of doing a couple things that are going to help downtown. You've probably seen the old signage that says City Hall this way when it's this way, or that the other direction. And so we are about to, actually thanks to former Councilwoman Lavette Fuller, we had some money to be able to do some new signs, and we're in the process of that, absolutely. But, and I just wanted to say overall that I know you had volunteers, I know that you had in-kind contributions, but I'm just curious what your individual projects, if you could put a dollar amount that you believe the project cost. And then I want to invite you, we're in the process of surveying our property owners and businesses in downtown. And so anybody, if you have an idea or something that would make downtown more livable, more sustainable, and that you'd like to see, please feel free to give our office a call or shoot me an email, jlandry@downtownshreveport.com. So I'm just curious about the cost, because bottom line, we need volunteers, we need, but we also need the money. So I'm curious what yours cost.
Yeah, the volume is probably low though.
So as far as a cost out of our pocket from our project, is that what you're asking? We were really sweat equity. The paintbrushes, the tarps were provided to us by SPAR, and then they took care of the footpath lighting and the tile repair. And so it was really more on us getting the manpower together, getting volunteers together to be able to get things scraped, primed, painted, in kind of a timely manner. So.
It's a great question. Actually, very similarly, SPAR chipped in for a lot of the big items, which we didn't expect, but was wonderful. I mean, like there are new lights, they ended up doing the fascia boards, they repainted, they got us in the budget cycle somehow once we started asking for some specific things. I think we paid $500 for the pressure washing. As a neighborhood association, we probably bought some extra rollers. Actually, I think we got neighbors to like bring out their own, maybe another $100 in supplies. But I'll say from that experience, we like that cost can be a barrier. And so we started a fund with our neighborhood association where any group of 3 neighbors can request up to $1,000 for a project that would help the neighborhood. And so just to be able to kind of bring that barrier down has been a really, I think, a good learning experience to get something like that going, making projects more accessible for other people.
Well, we've been fortunate to, the only thing we spent was on water. Everything else was strictly donations. Shout out to Shreveport Green because we could not have put that together without their support and their donations. They donated the vests, the trash bags, the litter pickers, gloves, everything we needed. And we had outside support to donate us snacks, some waters, ice, so it was definitely a team effort, and we haven't had to come out of pocket for much at all.
And
Just really quick to add to that, and unfortunately the cycle just closed, but every year the city has a grant program called the Neighborhood Investment Program, and they award, depending on, there's some different criteria, but $1,000 up to $10,000 to award neighborhood investment projects, and they are for exactly the kinds of things that you see here. They only do it once a year. I would love for that to be maybe twice a year, spring and fall maybe, so look for that next year. You do have to have a neighborhood association to enter, but you can certainly check out the application process. You can check out the application process so that you can do it next year and you can be ready.
That's the Office of Community Development.
Yes, Office of Community Development.
They announce it sometime in late June.
Yeah, late June. Yep, every year. So.
Wendy, did you have a question, or did you want to say anything about Shreveport Common?
I wish I could be government because then I would have some money to do some of the things that we're doing, but instead we're co-creators. I'm with Wendy Ben-Scotter with Shreveport Common, Inc. It's a very small nonprofit. It's a one-person office. We have 24 board members, so, but important people who know how to get things done. Each of them, brings something to the table, which is really exciting. But we're also uniters. We work very closely with City of Shreveport. We work very closely with Caddo Parish Commission. We work very closely with Shreveport Regional Arts Council and every single property owner in the 9-block area. Now, the Arts Council does the art stuff, and that's the exciting part. The city does the public spaces and infrastructure. That's not so much the exciting part. Now, we work also with DDA. Janie and I worked on a grant today to get some money to people that need it to either get their businesses down here or to get facade grants done. But I just wanted to say a couple of things. I'm glad you mentioned the NIP grant that is $10,000 last year. It was only $6,000. This year it's only $10,000. But don't wait to get started on it, because even for someone like me that writes a lot of grants, including to the Department of Environmental Quality, that NIP grant kicked my butt. It is not easy, but you can plow through it and you can get help doing it. I'm not saying that it's like you're going to have bring in 10 people to do it, but it just takes a lot. It's a lot of paperwork, so go ahead and do it and get people together on your team to do it, or call somebody with the city and ask them to help you. But it does do exciting projects, and sometimes having money to get started helps with the match. I'm just so impressed with everything that y'all have done. People think about Shreveport Common as being one big project, and it's not really. It's 52 right now. It's up to 52 smaller projects in the area, and we are so grateful that Chris painted that crosswalk. I drove past it the first day and went, wow, somebody finally did that. I thought maybe they did it at nighttime so nobody would catch them. But I don't know if y'all noticed, but now Providence House has put a bunch of planters in going up to their walkway, and how beautiful that looks. If you drive around this area, you'll see that there's a lot of improvement just the individual property owners and business owners are doing. So yeah, it's all about teamwork and being co-creators. Thank you.
So Stephen said he did have something he wanted to add. I mean, Representative Stephen Jackson.
Stephen is fine. Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. I just want to just add ditto to everything that everybody has said, particularly Tari, about this being our city. The thing that I really would like to point out that this group, these ladies, have taken on is they took ownership. A lot of time in government, and Councilwoman Fuller, Tari has seen it, I've seen it, is people really, and I think somebody over here said they were, when they first moved here, they were asking why wasn't the government doing more. The council lady almost hit on it a little bit, and she kind of got on it and got off of it. Governments are really there right now. Most governments are there trying to make sure police and fire, make sure the trucks are running, make sure your water is not brown, make sure, you know, all of these things, basic necessities and infrastructure are going on, and we're trying to do it all on dwindling population, dwindling tax base, dwindling revenue. And so when you have people who step up and say, I want to do, as opposed to government, why aren't you doing? That's where communities begin to transform. They're owning it. They're taking ownership, and more of us, and I say that collectively, more of us have to take ownership in our community. I often tell people about my raccoon story. When I first got elected to the parish commission, there was a dead raccoon, had to be pregnant. It was huge on North Hearn. And I would pass it. And so I finally called the parish administrator and said, Doc, will somebody please come pick this dead raccoon up from Public Works or Animal Services? He said, where is it? I said, it's on North Hearn. So I'll get back to you. A few minutes later, he called and said, well, Stephen, the city will have to pick it up because it's inside the city limits. And I said, okay. And so then we called the city. The city said, the state will have to pick it up because it's a state highway. And so I said, Doc, what is it going to take to pick the damn raccoon up? Because if you know where the parish public works and our animal service department is, where the raccoon was located, I said, Doc, you mean to tell me we have trucks? No. I asked him another question. I said, Doc, what would happen if a dead raccoon was laying in the middle of the street in Blanchard? He said, we would pick it up, the parish. I said, so Doc, you mean to tell me our trucks would pass this dead raccoon to go pick up another dead raccoon somewhere else? And so I think y'all are picking up the dead raccoons. And that is, and I really, if you never worked in government and seen it, you really don't, there's a real big appreciation for it, because we cannot do everything. We have to be champions for our own community. So great job. And thank you, Reform, for what y'all have been doing.
Thank you. Raccoons are not glamorous at all. We're not zoned for that. Man, so what was your question? So the question was about the crime center cameras and whether or not they were specific ones targeted and how many there might be. And the answer was, there's not exactly a specific answer that we can give you right now, but if we did tell you, we might have to kill you. That's not what Ms. Bradford said, though. What was your question, sir? My recommendation for you in Allendale specifically is going to be that there's a friendship house in Allendale. There's some people there that, I'm not saying that that organization, but what I'm going to say is that there are specific people who interact through there. Well, I'm going to say more. If there's not a singular, I know that there's a group that's like the Allendale Ledbetter Heights, and yeah, there's a partnership. And if you can't get keyed into them and see capacity there, bring more people with you to that group because it does exist. Like you have it's Lakeside Allendale Partnership. Allendale Partnership. Okay. You can't control other people, but you can control how you respond to a situation. And so my recommendation is that if all the different groups that do exist are not growing their capacity and they're not accommodating or they're not in a position to do what needs to be done, then that's when you do, because you've got 3 different things that happened up here. And one of them started through the neighborhood group, but the other 2 started on their own. Well, they don't come through the neighborhood. They just work with groups. But stay with me for a minute. You're going to have to do what Reform Shreveport did. We started for a specific purpose around policy and bringing in speakers, and that turned into the 3 of us getting some more of our friends and picking up trash in the Highland group, in the Highland Park. We didn't ask anyone's permission. We didn't talk to the neighborhood group. We said, this is what we're going to do. We put our plan together, and if they want to come hang with us, they are more than welcome, and it grew from there. It might be that if none of the groups that you've got around you are accommodating or have the capacity for the vision that you have of how it needs to go, then it's you. It's you and a couple of friends, whoever you can get. Kalen over here, Mr. J, he doesn't always want me to use his real name, but he's a 49ers fan and I'm petty. He goes like 2 Saturdays a month and picks up trash by himself. He lets everyone know where he's gonna be. He took a golf caddy thing and put the trash can on it and then some like speakers, and he will walk and he will pick up trash in Caddo Heights. And if y'all come, cool, we can do this together. If you don't, I'm still gonna do what I came here to do. And when I can, sometimes I go. Madison's even gone over there with him, and we've like picked up trash in the ditch on Union Avenue. Sometimes you just have to be the person that's fulfilling the need that you don't see being fulfilled by the other groups that said they're supposed to. And then you become the person. The same way you came to me earlier and said what you said to me, which was really, really nice. You find the person who's elected to rep you, and you do them the same way. And you basically make yourself unforgettable. You make it to where they either can't wait to see you coming or hate to see you coming. But either way, they're going to have to answer to you. Because the people, that's the thing is, it's like in school, like there's things that fall in the cracks. What doesn't fall in the cracks is the person that's either the thorn in your side or like the person that always tells you how smart and pretty you are and will bring you a pie. You'll do anything for them. You know, don't be a stalker, that's creepy. But get with them and make yourself a presence. Make yourself known, and then the people will come to you. They'll be like, you're able to get so-and-so to do whatever you need them to do. You've got to contact the water department, at Public Works, at Property Standards. What did you do? Come with me, I'll show you. We can go have coffee, and then we can go meet with them, or we can meet with them over coffee. It's you. You have to be the one. But then it's just picking up the phone, calling them, telling them your name. And the thing is, they'll get to a point where you'll have you might have the head of SPAR and the head of Public Works getting coffee one morning and being like, man, I just got the phone with so-and-so. It was so great. They're trying to do so much in Allendale. Oh, who? Oh, yeah, I talked to him just the other day. I love that guy. It happens. And I think right now what it is it's you. Because you're not seeing it happen. You're not seeing cohesion with the other groups. They're all splintering off. You might have to be the leader that brings everybody else together.
Yeah, that's hard. We have time for maybe one more, and then we'll want to be respectful of everybody's time. Anybody else?
That might be a good place to leave it.
Great. I will leave you guys with this. Again, reformshreveport.com. Reformshreveport.com. This is a reading list. If you're interested in learning how some of this stuff is done, thank you. One more hand for our speakers, Callie, Madison, Sarah. I'm going to plug really quick. So if you go to our website, there's a reading list. There's actually, I'm just going to, there's a bunch of books in here. Everything from walkable, this is the one that kind of started with us. It's understanding when Levette's talking about, the ability for us to pay for things and how we don't have enough people to pay for things. And that's why people ask, well, where's all the money? They're putting it in their pockets. We just, there are answers. There are people who've done national research, global research, because Shreveport is not the only city going through these problems. And this is where we got started. This is the stuff that we read and the speakers that we've invited to the community. You can go see our projects that we've done. You can go back and watch recorded versions of our live stream guest speakers. So thank you all for coming. Thanks for sticking around. Please feel free to take food. We have more. I overbuy on the charcuterie every time. Please take it with you, and thank you so much.
Thank you.